Welcome back to Dr. J. Welcome back. Well, we hope, I hope, I speak for Father and the Son and their ghost, Elohim, many in Him. We hope that you're having a wonderful holiday time for those of you who are in real time here in December 2023. This is Jeremiah with New Covenant. We greet you in one name, of course. Only one name given amongst men, right, by which you must be saved under heaven. So there you go. And we're going to, first of all, mention that we are, of course, I'm looking through Paul here in Colossians, that we are listening for the voice of the Lord. Do you hear the horn? You don't hear it. Get ready for it. We just went over that 100 times here in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye. And we'll be getting back into that, but we'll only bounce on that. We're not going to get into too many chapters and double chapters anymore. We don't have time for it. We will mention a few items in the chapter, of course. And I have popcorn precepts here. And of course, we're going to get away from what we just talked about quite a bit, which is the rapture and so forth. And in the moment, in the twinkling of an eye, we have that right over here, the rapture. I might add some more scriptures to the. I want more scriptures in our framework, okay, for the rapture. I do indeed want more precise scriptural references, okay? And that's more work for me. You know, it's okay to paraphrase a little bit, but it's nice to have those scriptures exactly how they are. And I'm going to have to do a little bit better on my popcorn precepts here. Popcorn precepts is coming your way as we all lift up our hands unto thy name. Thy loving kindness is eternal life. So there we go as we rejoice. And I'm looking at both of my Bibles here. I have two King James open here, and I'm looking at Colossians. I wanted to say something because we do have the 31 flavors that we're focusing on right now. But I never get away from reading the Bible totally. We're just backing away because there's no time. You know, everything has to be quick and to the point now. You know, we have to go over living bread, germane, you know, to wit. You know, we have to get right to the thinking. The word wit, I guess people say to wit now or something. They've been saying it, but for a long time. Meaning more specifically, or moreover, or furthermore, and so forth. But what I want to do here is I want to look at the 31 flavors, and we're going to get to popcorn precepts. And as usual, both of my Bibles are open, and we can always look at some scriptures that support what we're talking about constantly. And you're going to have to listen to the scriptures yourself now, basically. And you're going to have to go online, many of you, and just go ahead and click on King James Version chapters, and then come to me with questions. And all you're going to do in this ministry now is you're going to go to 31 flavors, and you're going to get the basic idea of a biblical concept. My job is to basically help you with your vocabulary and your contextualism, so that you know the context, you know what's being said, you know, and that's my job here. And the ministry is headed in the direction of me being basically a vocabulary reader. That's all I'm going to. That's pretty much what I'm going to do here. So that you're going to read and put your ideas kind of together on your own. And that's what I want to give you the power to do, right? Because when you learn your vocabulary, then you can do basically your own reading. Okay? I want to talk, before we get to 31 flavors, I want you to go to Colossians chapter 3, and I want to talk about why the rapture is so important and why why the apostasy is here. And I just went over that on some of my popcorn cards here, because I'm going to give you a popcorn Bible study here and today. But before we do, because we only have two things I want to do. I want to greet you, of course, in the only name given. And then we have 31 flavors, and we're just about done with 1 through 15. I'll be turning the board over here any day now. All I want is 31 for this month. We're halfway through the month almost, 1/3. So we're going to have to finish 1 through 15 in a couple of days. Now, since 1 through 15 is the lion's share of all of the precepts here that I teach, it's difficult to go through, but I will go through in a semi-cursory fashion and in brevity, and then as the months ensue, we will start hammering home the more difficult playlists. And 1 through 15 are pretty much the most difficult. It's where you have to really concentrate and pay attention. Okay? It's like looking at a problem with calculus and rationalizing the denominator and choosing between how to find the area of a parabola or something. You're going to have to take your time, and there's steps you're going to have to memorize, and you're going to have to concentrate. And that's what I do here. I force you to concentrate, but there's not that much to concentrate on. So that by the time May comes and the Lord has not come, because we groan together, Paul said, we're all groaning here. Because the situation is very sick, and the situation is like Lot in Sodom right now, and we want out of here. A lot of violence, a lot of perversion, and we want out. And that's why we focus on the rapture here quite a bit, and I'm looking at some rapture scriptures right now in Thessalonians, but I'm going to let those go for now, because I want to talk about an even more overarching principle, which is the mindset of rapture. Which goes back to always living bread basically every time, which is a life of looking ahead, a life of looking at heaven, the blessed hope, a life of Matthew chapter 10, verse, I can't think of it right now, which is, of course, if any man hate his life, if any man lose his life, that's how you find your life. That's obviously one of the main principles of any sound doctrine Bible teacher. It is not the only concept in biblical Protestantism. It is one of the main ideas. And the reason why it is because when the Master mentions loving him, he usually mentions that. And what are we here for? Some of you don't get lost. What are we here for? Number one, agape. That's why we're here. We're here for the love of God to be shed abroad in your hearts throughout eternity, and don't lose that love. That's the main thing we're here for. And the criteria for owning that love is basically living bread, and we go back to it constantly, and I refer to living bread as the main idea basically in Christianity. It's not the only primary idea or concept, but it is one of the primary concepts, if not the primary concept. If any man eat this bread, it generally refers to denial and taking the lower table. I must decrease, he must increase. That's 4th to 5th grade grammar for if you're paying attention and you're getting a C in the class. I've mentioned this before. A lot of people, especially Americans, they've never gotten a C in Christianity. We're not saying they're not saved. What we're saying is they're in the danger zone. When you get a D in a class, you almost got an F. If you go to college in the United States, in most universities, if you get an F or a D right now, you flunk. It used to be if you got a D, you passed the class. Einstein got a D, I think in his first math class in college. If that would have happened today, he would have flunked the class. He would have had to repeat the class. Now, the reason why he flunked the class was not because he knows mathematics. He kept trying to write the problems in a different form, and the teacher didn't want him to do that. You can't go to a classroom and rearrange the class. So he tried to force his imagination, which was not necessarily unscientific, on the professor. And the professor wasn't having it. And that really epitomizes, encapsulates Einstein in a nutshell. He was always extrapolating math that simply does not exist. There are no light years. There is no space-time continuum because you have to have space to have space-time continuum. You say, Jeremiah, why do you know these things? Well, because I'm an old guy, that's why. And old science is saying bye-bye. You know what? I used to have a professor who said, all science changes. And in a way, that's true. We can look at science and Tesla and a lot of these famous people and look at what they said and go, dude, you had it wrong. Why? Because that's what time does. We have 31 flavors here. I'm very happy with this. We're going to get to it momentarily. I want to talk about the mindset of a servant for a while and living bread for a moment as we get into, of course, this is number 11 in our ministry here, in our service, okay? And I'm starting out with it, but I'm broadening out the concept to you know, the old Negro hymn they had, heaven, heaven, everybody's talking about heaven. Well, see, today, the reason why it's a falling away and apostasy, let's get back to that. The reason why it's a falling away and people are disappearing and they are getting away from what they're supposed to be thinking about and talking about and studying, that's why it's called a falling away. And it goes back to getting a D and an F in the class. The parable of the sower pertains to getting a scribe. The parable of the sower is a word student. That's how important the word student is. Okay? Or scribe, it's the same thing. You need pen and paper always. You don't. Unless you have some sort of computer or something, you're going to need paper and pen. Scribe is another word for writing. Here's the point. The point is that learning and focusing on heaven was what you were supposed to do from the jump, from the gate, from the start, like a quarter horse, and you were supposed to stay on that concept, which is, I'm going to heaven, that's the goal here. That's what's supposed to be the goal. And the apostasy basically means that people have gotten away from that goal. They've gotten to the point where they're thinking about the earth all the time, and they're coming into the church of Jesus Christ. Now, we're going to let that go because I don't want to spend a lot of time on that because I have 2 years of staying away from a lot of negativity here. My name is Jeremiah. I basically am someone who uproots and replants, and I have a forehead of flint. So that means that I have to spend a lot of time bucking heads, which means I have to spend a lot of time getting into negativity, which means I have to spend a lot of time praying for people who Jesus said don't pray for. Jesus told Jeremiah, don't pray for these people. Just warn them and tell them that they're toast. So I have a lot of get out there and tell them they're toast ministry, evidently, if I'm going to be germane to my name. But however, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be the way it is. Jeremiah did save some people, and he did inform some of the remnant of Israel that are about ready to be punished, correct? But for the most part, it is a lose-lose lamentations situation that people are just continuing to walk on their merry, wide Broadway path, which leads to destruction. Now, that's my general overarching persona as a Bible teacher. However, once again, we do have a remnant here, and there are people who are going to escape Babylon, and Cyrus and Nebuchadnezzar and all these people, they're going to escape and come back. So there is a remnant, but most of them are toast. And that just happens to be basically probably what my ministry is. I turn the computer on, they're watching basketball, they're watching horror movies, and they're free, and they're watching people not properly clothed, and they're watching alcohol stuff, and they're watching drug-related stuff, and that's what they're watching. When it comes to Bible study, and Noah warning them of the impending flood, they don't want to hear Noah at all. They're just, that's what a falling away is. But more specifically, I want to talk about the falling away of the church, and looking at Paul in Colossians chapter 3, if ye then be risen with Christ, seek these things which are above, where Christ sitteth on the right hand of God. Set your affections on things above, not on the things of the earth. Stop right there. See, and that's what's not happening. That goes for the MAGA crowd, TV crowd. They're not thinking about heaven. They don't talk about heaven. So that means that they're out of line, and many of them are not saved because you're not doing what you're supposed to do, which is you're supposed to love Jesus Christ because you're setting your affections on things that are not on the earth. Verse 2, chapter 3, verse 2, Colossians, set your affections. So there you go. Many people will not set their affections. They will not make heartstrings to God, but they will walk through the pews and so forth. Around the corner over here, they say that Jesus Christ isn't God, and you can basically just kind of put him in the drawer. You're not fostering a deep love of Jesus Christ, by no means. Over here, it's Mary we adore, Miss Guadalupe or whatever. So everybody's wrong, and it's not good because they're not putting their affections on Jesus Christ, and they're not focusing on Him and serving Him alone. All you do is turn your TV on, and people are dancing over here in Los Angeles yesterday. They were just dancing to Mary. Oh, my Mary, in Indiana here they have Notre Dame, which means Our Lady. So they have some sort of relationship with a dead woman. And so what we have is this psychosis. That's all this is. That's why people don't want to listen to Christian Protestantism, because the devil has them. You can't worship Mary without knowing the devil. You can't say Jesus Christ is a frog and knock on my door and say He's not Almighty God unless it's the devil. That's the whole point here. You think worshiping Mary is some sort of mild thing, or it's just a misdemeanor? A slap on the hand? No big deal, sir. Our Lady people. They had a high school in my town called Mater Dei. We were infected right there in Southern California. That's because they have money. Money causes infection. They're the ones who bought the school and named the school whatever they wanted to name it, which is Mater Dei, which means Mother God. In case you didn't know. So their affections aren't on Jesus Christ alone. They're telling you that by calling the school Mother Dei, Mater Dei. My mother, I love the dead woman Mary. I talked to her. She's basically as dead as a doornail, and they're talking to her. And then I saw a movie here the other day where they go, yeah, oh saints, please hear me, And they're laughing while they're doing it, as though it doesn't mean anything. They're not doing anything wrong. There's no felony involved. By talking to dead people, there's no felony. There's no crime. In the Greek, what is it? Odikeia, or I'm trying to say that word, odikeo. Odokeo, I think is how you pronounce it in Greek. I don't know, but it means to not right Or anarcheo. We get the word anarchy. Anarcheo or archeo. Anarcheo. Not under the law, not under what's right. Oh, saints be praised. Thank you for hearing me, and whatever. You don't praise saints. It's acute mental retardation. And they're laughing while they're looking at you on the movie or something. I turned on here the other day. Saints be praised, and oh Mary, yeah, hear me, oh Mary, and tell Jesus what to do. You order him around and all of this nonsense. And we have to deal with this because it's an infection. It's probably worse than COVID because people are going to lose their soul, not just their body. Thou shalt not have any other gods besides me. That's like the number one commandment. You're running around breaking the number one commandment, which a kindergartner should know, and you're 70 years old on a movie, and you're looking at me, and I'm looking at you in the movie, or whoever you are. It could be in person, doesn't really matter. And you're looking at me as though I don't know that you are acutely retarded, and you're spitting like in God's face. You can tell me you've never heard worship him alone. Let's move on. Let's get to this. Set your affections. So this goes back to obeying the royal law. To love the Lord your God and him alone, and set your affections. Now, if your affections are divided, that means that there could be a big problem between you and the person that you're playing with. If you get married to somebody and you're playing with their affections, going across the street, coming back home, going across the street, the person who you are committed to, they may get tired of it. That's what Paul means by set your affections. And when you see MAGA crowds or politicians or people around the corner here having a barbecue with loud, raucous music or something, and their affections are all over the place, this politician, this over here, sports and wrestling and muscles and whatever, it's all over the place, isn't it? They're not setting their affections on things above. And that ties into the blessed hope. That ties into eating living bread. It ties into everything. If I go to Starbucks and I see a lady who's not dressed properly, her affections are not on Jesus Christ alone. Her affections are on the mirror whereby she looks at herself and she loves herself probably more than she loves God. If I see a lady at Walmart who has a very long dress on, and she's probably playing the part of what she's supposed to do because she's not demonstrating that she's double-minded. Okay? Set your affections on above, for ye are dead. Jeremiah, are we back to living bread in stone again? You'll never get away from living bread, especially in this new covenant. Just forget about it. And what I mean by living bread, I mean denial and self-humiliation, or allowing self-humiliation, or yielding to the divine arrangement for you to be humbled in the sight of the Lord, period. For ye are dead, and your life is hid with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, our life, shall appear, then shall ye also appear with him in glory. Stop right there. That goes right back to what he just said. That you are with him at his appearing, which is number 20 or so, is at 18 in my rapture list. Are you not in the presence of the Lord as his coming? And then he tells you again that you're in the presence of the Lord when he appears. How many times does he have to say that you're with him when he appears? How many times do you have to say before you know that? I've had Bible teachers that I know over the years, they told me that that's not what Jesus means. He said it's a simple grammar for a fourth grader right there. And he says it repeatedly. Okay? And then for you to say that it's not proper grammar means that you need to go back to school, and a lot of people need to start all over again. When it comes to this concept of you being with Jesus Christ, with him at his coming. He says it right here again. You also appear with him in glory. What more do you need? And what's the requirement for you being there? He just told you. Set your affections on him and focus. And it's quite obvious that 5 of the 10 people who don't make it in the rapture, those 5 people are doing what? They're not setting their affections on the things that are above, which is what you see on the TV and computer now. Donald Trump and let's fix the government and all that. Some of these people might get in the rapture. I don't know. The Lord's the one who decides who gets in the rapture, not me. However, it doesn't look good, does it? Why? Because are their affections on church activities? I don't think so. They're also declaring that everybody who joins them in this MAGA crowd is doing the right thing. Are they making sure that everybody in the MAGA crowd is saved? And how can you have a church service when you don't know who's there? You can't exercise the gifts of the Holy Spirit with people you don't know and thousands and thousands of people excited. That's not a church. We are a church. That's what we are. And everything else is, leave it alone. Does it mean that people who are baby Christians and not Christians can't do good things for the community? That's not the point. Not the point at all. The point is that that's not where you should be. Let's put it that way. We can easily come to that conclusion. Because we're in the church activities based upon Paul the Apostle telling you what spiritual gift God has given you to function in the body of the church. Everything outside of that is extraneous. That is simple logic. Why? Because Paul told you he wants you to have a spiritual gift. God's going to give you a function in the church. Some people play the piano, some people clean toilets. Doesn't matter what gift or work you do, you're going to do something. More specifically, speaking in tongues, being teachers, being pastors, and singers, and all this kind of stuff. He doesn't mention anything about being a zealot for the government and fixing the government. And separation of church and state. Once again, it does not mean that we don't rejoice when a politician decides to make a law that's in line with our teaching in here. No, I rejoice. But I have no meeting and I have no accolades. Because the only accolades we have is Jesus Christ accolades. That's the only recognition we have here. That's all there is. Period. Now, let me mention this. As you can see, Colossians 3:3 and 3:4 and 3:2 are some of the most important scriptures in your Bible without a doubt. I want to mention these scriptures today. And we get to 31 flavors in the next video. Because it gets back to fulfilling the royal law and obeying the gospel. Being sufficient and enough. It comes back to being faithful. Well done, good and faithful servant. It comes back to overcomer, Nike, a winner. All the good terms in your New Testament especially. That's how you own those terms. As a Bible teacher of many years, many años, I can see that a lot of people are definitely not setting their affections on things that are above. And when I talk to them in the store, I say, the blessed hope, and they go, I don't know anything about the blessed hope. Paul said that's their chief crown of rejoicing right here in Thessalonians when you turn the next page. Because he says you're in the presence of the Lord in chapter 3. Then you turn the page to, what's that, 1 Thessalonians chapter 2. He says that you're in the presence of the Lord. So you're in the presence of the Lord here, and you're in the presence of the Lord that is coming over here. How many times does he have to say that you are in the presence of the Lord that is coming for you to understand that? Okay, let's move on. Then he qualifies it by setting your affections on above. And then here in Thessalonians, he qualifies you getting in the rapture, basically, and making sure you go to heaven based upon you having the blessed hope. And the blessed hope is born when you love Jesus Christ in 1 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 19. For what is our hope or joy or crown of rejoicing? There it is. That's the thing you should be happiest about, is your crown of rejoicing. What are you the happiest about? If you tell me you're the happiest about getting a brand new car, then nothing differentiates you from a Disney goer. You're just another human being, essentially, aren't you? Because if you love Jesus Christ, your chief joy is to be with the one you love. Which goes back to the previous book where he said, set your affections. So if you don't set your affections on him, then you don't have a blessed hope. You walk around here, or some people like I know, they walk around talking about getting things from God all the time. You know, or along the lines of just being general zombies. And you lose zombiehood when you focus on the love of Jesus Christ, setting your affections on above. That's the whole point here. And then you own the blessed hope, which is right in the next book, in the next chapter. Paul the Apostle is very consistent. He's always on the beam here. He doesn't get lost. I'll be right back as we're going to skip this segment here. Looking at Paul and how the coming of the Lord, the rapture, you're there because, why are you there? Because you set your affections on above, you set your affections on loving Jesus Christ, now you own the blessed hope, you have the chief crown of rejoicing, and you're not just walking around believing in God for things and stuff, and the most you are is a baby Christian. That's the highest level of consciousness that you own, which is not good, because you should own the love of Jesus Christ and the blessed hope as your chief expectation, what I'm looking forward to, which is essentially getting out of here. Notwithstanding giving God thanks for what you have now. I'll be right back. Maranatha.